Let's get ready to rumble.
Yes, we're back. It is episode 64 of the Hibs Ramble. It's just the gruesome twosome with you this week. It's Liam, and I'm joined by Mr. Shaun Corrigan. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Buzzing for this week. Can't wait.
Massive week ahead for the cabbage. I will tell you that. But more importantly, Shaun, how was your weekend?
Weekend was all right, mate. Aye, it was good. It was good.
Good, I'm glad. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yours?
I really am. It was all right. I didn't manage to make it to the game, unfortunately. I had a Halloween party for the kids at Megan's Grand's. So we dressed the kids up as Woody and Buzz from Toy Story and took them there. So that was good fun. And thankfully I didn't miss a 5-6 goal thriller at Easter Road. 0-0 when I'm not there will do me just fine. But let's jump right into it. So the lineup, Monty stuck with a 4-4-2, Shaun, despite the criticism that he faced after the trouncing that we got at Ibrox. Adam Le Fondre and Paul Hanlon dropped out, and Jayden Rocky came in. Were you surprised to see that he stuck with 4-4-2, or when the team first came out, did you actually realise that he was playing 4-4-2? Because I wasn't so sure.
I assumed that he was playing 4-4-2 because he's a man of his principles. I'm not expecting him to change. I didn't expect him to change away Ibrox. And I didn't expect him to change at home to Celtic. I'd be disappointed if he then changed at home against one of the Old Firm instead of doing it away. I was a bit taken back by the team though. I say the team, I mean Tavares being in the starting 11, but I guess if he's in the starting 11, you then don't feel inclined to bring him on, and then whoever you do bring on is an improvement, in my opinion. So yeah, I was very surprised from that aspect of it. I did put a message in the chat asking if I should turn around and just go home. But weirdly enough, considering the result, thankfully I didn't, because it was a relatively enjoyable game.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Shaun. I really am glad to hear that. But just touching back on the 4-4-2, and we spoke about it after Ibrox, do you think it shows a lack of having an alternative, or do you think that he is just sticking to his guns and showing complete and utter belief in the players and the system, really?
I think Saturday was a great indication of what his other, not systems, because I don't want to sit here and dwell on shape and formation and 4-4-2 this and 4-4-2 that. That is Nick Montgomery's base principle. That is his base formation, and that's what he will stick with, and that's what his tried and tested formation will be. But being at the game at the weekend, it was really evident that, as it should be, it wasn't necessarily a 4-4-2 in and out of possession. He obviously changed up the personnel to get more out of individuals and to try and implement our style and our game plan on Celtic a little bit more. Hence why Martin Boyle was on the last man and was playing up top, but that meant that Dylan Vente had to drop a little bit deeper than he normally does, because normally he's the one on the last defender, and like a Doige or a Le Fondre is the one doing the doggies, as well as obviously the hard work that he puts in. But like I said, at the weekend there, it was really evident that it doesn't necessarily matter that we're starting with a 4-4-2. There's different passages of play throughout that game at the weekend where we were in a different shape, albeit defensively and attacking. For example, Diego and Newell were sitting quite deep at times. Vente was sitting on Callum McGregor at times to try and stop him having an impact on the game. We were sitting really narrow at times as well. We Boyle just up top as an outlet to try and force Celtic to go wide and basically ask them to cross the ball in the box. So all in all, I think on the face of it, if you didn't either watched the game or you just saw the highlights back, you might not have been able. I'm not obviously directing this to you. I just mean in general, you might not pick up on what happened in game throughout the match. But it was really good to see the different passages of play that we were either attempting both defensively and attacking, and in an attacking sense at the weekend, and it showed to those football purists that 4-4-2 maybe isn't the be all and end all, and that we can change in game and be a little bit more fluid in what we're asking certain individuals to do, like a Martin Boyle, like a Dylan Vente, like a Tavares. He found himself inside in the middle of the pitch quite a lot. So did Eli Yuan. He wasn't as wide as he normally is. Newell and Jago were a lot further back at times as well. And our fullbacks weren't initially bombing up as much, but when they were given the opportunity, they were able to overlap and bomb forward ahead of Newell and Jago. So all in all, very fluid performance, very flexible within the system, and long may it continue, especially from a defensive perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was definitely a dig at me because I've only watched the highlights. But no, I completely understand where you're coming from, because we put out a tweet on Saturday evening just saying that there were some very good individual performances within a great team performance. A lot of people, sorry, are saying Lewis Miller, Rocky Miller. Miller is the one who is, the outstanding candidate, it looks like, for the Ramblers man of the match. I think he got the actual man of the match as well, didn't he, in the stadium?
He did.
A lot of people
you
singing
did
his
call out
praises.
to him as well when we interviewed him a couple of weeks back. He did say that he just seems to be made for games against Celtic, and lo
Yeah,
and behold, he
exactly.
puts in another man of the match performance against Celtic. So if you've definitely not listened to that already, you should go back. It was certainly a cracker. And yeah, great lad.
Yeah. So I think that's not something that you really see when you're watching back the highlights. Obviously, the main thing that I saw picking up from the first half was the persistency of, is that a word? Persistency? Persistentness?
We were very
What will we go
persistent.
with? What will we go with? We're very persistent with playing the ball out from the back. It did get us in trouble a couple of times that I saw on the highlights. Rocky passing the ball straight to, I'm not too sure what Celtic player it was, one of their new ones, I think Bernardo maybe. And there was a instance where the ball was played towards Jago, he slipped on the surface and it ended up at a Celtic player's feet again. Marshall making a good save. The first one just goes wide, but I mean, 9 times out of 10, that's probably nestling in the back of the net. Do you think that the players grew into the game doing that, or was that something that they cut out, quite sharp after they made a couple of mistakes doing it?
No, I think again the weekend's performance showed that we can mix it up while still sticking to Monty's principles and what he's actually looking for us to do. The reason why, or one of the main reasons why we would try and play out constantly from the back, is to try and bring out the opponent, and then we can then either go long or pass it round them using like triangles and things like that, and different angles to try and then implement our style and get the ball in behind them and utilize the space that we have with the attackers that we have. Just touching on those two points that you mentioned, I think, listen, the boy next to me was absolutely fizzing throughout the whole match, to the point where I felt like I was under a shower. Like he was going off on one, especially the second time it happened. I felt like I didn't need to have another wash for about a week. I was that soaking after that. But with you can't account for Jago slipping, right? That's just unfortunate that happened, in my opinion. I don't think anyone's to blame with that. I'm
The
going to
pitch
go
staff, maybe.
well, aye, but I'm not going to call them out. I actually feel inclined to feel bad for Rocky for the first one as well, or the one that Celtic end up getting a chance from, because that's what we are trying to do. It's what we're trying to implement. I spoke about it the other week, that this is the style of play that we're trying to play to try and bring Celtic out, like bring them into a false sense of security, and then break on them. So, in my opinion, it's not Rocky's fault that in training, right, they'll have worked on little passages of play of Fish or Marshall having it, playing it to each other, and then expecting someone to be in the middle of the park.
Yeah.
Yes, Rocky should look up and see if that passes on. But if that's what they've worked on all week, then the blame should then also lie with the man that should be there, whether it be Jeggle, whether it be Newell, whether it be Yuan or Boyle or whoever was meant to drop into that hole. In training throughout that whole week and since Monty's came in, it has worked at times in games where we've been able to do those quick short passes at the back and then quickly find that man in the middle of the park. We then pop it back out wide to the wider player and then we find ourselves on the break or pushing forward. It's just unfortunate that in that instance, the person that was meant to be in that space or that area of the pitch wasn't there at that time. Maybe because they were expected to go to Fish instead of Rocky, so then they were on the other side of the pitch. I don't know. As for the Jeggle one, like I said, it's just unfortunate that he slipped. It won't be the last time that mistake will happen, but it will become few and far between because we'll get better and better and better at it, and we'll be able to do it quicker, and our passing will be sharper and our touch will be better. But then there was a few instances where we switched it up and it went to Rocky or it went to Fish, and because Celtic were then expecting it to go into the middle of the park, they then pushed higher up, and then we just dinked it over, and Miller and Abita were a little bit further forward, and then we'd cut out 2, 3 or 4 Celtic players. So it does work. It's just it's risk and reward football, realistically. So
this is it, but we knew that was the case when Monty came in. We knew that was the way that he liked to play. So I think I don't know if refreshing is the right word. I think it's promising, knowing that the players are definitely buying into what he wants to do. You know, we could have shot ourselves in the foot a couple of times on Saturday. You know, if Celtic had been a little bit more clinical, they'll probably feel on their end that you know they really should have won that game. But you know, I mean, at the end of the day, they didn't score, neither did we. So a point apiece is the fair result. But I mean, it would then go back to the argument when it's like, oh, if you make mistakes like that against better teams, and you're going to get punished. But you know, Celtic are the best team in the division, so and they didn't punish us for us making those kind of mistakes. So I think that would probably give the players a certain level of confidence, maybe give the fans a certain level of confidence as well, because I did hear that the fans weren't awfully happy at halftime. There was a couple of boos ringing around Easter Road, which I feel is maybe a bit much, you know, given that you're nothing each against Celtic, who've been great so far this season, and they just pushed Atletico Madrid all the way to the end in the week previous. So, you know, it's maybe a little bit of an overreaction, but it's not anything that we're not used to.
No, it definitely is. It definitely is an overreaction, and I think that comes from it was boiling over at the fact that there was those 2 slips in concentration, which, listen, I get, but for those that can see what we're trying to do and understand what Monty's trying to implement, it's not going to happen overnight. I would rather have that philosophy and identity and way of playing rather than not having it. Do you know what I mean? And for me, if we can have this style and we're able to implement it correctly, then I think over time it's only going to work out well for us. So for me, listen, where I was sitting, other than the guy that was absolutely fizzing next to me, I didn't necessarily hear too much boos, but you could hear that there was moans and groans because of the level of performance. But like you said, we were playing against the best team in the country by a country mile as well, by the way, regardless of the fact they played at Atletico during the week. Yes, they didn't, you know, take up the opportunities that we gave them, but realistically, they also didn't create much.
Right, Sean, we'll move into the second half now. We were kind of under the cosh a little bit for a lot of the second half, but we did have one really, really good chance at the start of the second half. It's a magic ball from Jordan Abita, and the way that, because I didn't see it at the time and stuff like that, but the way that I read about it on group chats and stuff was that it was a howler, an absolute sitter. But when I saw it on the highlights this morning, I didn't really think it was as bad as people were making out. It comes at a really, really quick pace. It's difficult to keep those kind of ones down. And, you know, Boyle is no slowpoke, so he would have been moving at pace as well. I think it's just unlucky. You know, if it comes at half a mile an hour slower, then he's maybe able to get a little bit more control on it and guide it into the goal. But what did you think at the time, looking at it?
I definitely don't see it how it was clearly portrayed in your other group chats, that's for sure. I liked that it was a relatively, from memory anyway, I think it was a relatively early ball put in.
Yeah,
It's like
really
as soon
deep.
as, yeah, as soon as he got the opportunity to put it in, he whipped it in, which I feel like we maybe didn't, well, we definitely didn't do enough of, because we never really created anything through the whole match other than really that chance. So I liked that he whipped it in at the earliest opportunity, and because of where Boyle was playing, he was more central and he was on the last man. It is unfortunate. I think it's a mixture of the fact that Boyle's kind of reaching for it. He's made that good run, but because of the pace of the ball, it's just difficult to connect. It's one of those where it could have went anywhere. Sometimes it's the back of the net, sometimes it doesn't. I wasn't.
Yeah.
It was a great chance, didn't get me wrong, especially to obviously take the lead at that point. But listen, I'm not blaming either of them for the ball being, you know, whipped in too fast, because I like those types of balls, especially when they're put in nice and early. And I'm not going to sit here and moan at Boyle not finishing it, because he's a good enough player, and it's just unfortunate that he wasn't able to make the right connection at that point.
Exactly. I spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. Mind that Brian Graham goal that I was talking about against
Aye.
Morton. That's when I watched it back. That's what it reminded me of. Obviously, it wasn't as the Brian Graham goal was a header, so the cross was a wee bit higher. But I was thinking, oh, I just love deep crosses. I don't know
Same.
what it is about deep crosses. It just really, really appeals to me. I find them very, very attractive. But I mean, Celtic had another couple of chances in the in the second half of the game, but I don't really want to talk about it too much because I don't really care about Celtic.
No.
What I
The
do
thing
want to
is,
talk
though,
about,
just quickly before we move on kind of how that performance will implement a similar type of performance in the next two games. I think we've already touched on how good that level of performance was, both from an individual perspective and a team perspective, which is night and day from the week before, and how much belief that will give the squad and certainly some of the fan base. I think if we can take that kind of support into Tuesday and obviously Saturday, as well as that kind of level of performance, I think long term we'll do just fine under Monty playing that way, especially considering we went toe to toe with. I know they played during the week, but we went toe to toe with by far the best team in the league, and the country, sorry, and we limited them to very, very little. They hit the bar through what was it? I think that ended up coming from a corner, and then obviously the couple of chances they had in the first half came for our own mistakes. So all in all, I know we didn't create much, and that's maybe more of a problem. But again, we're playing Celtic. I
yeah,
think if
exactly. I
we
mean, I
play
don't
like
think
that
our
against a better side, we'll be fine.
you
So yeah,
say, I mean, it's a cliche, but your seasons aren't defined against Celtic and Rangers, and I know you play them if you finish in the top six anyway 4 times each, but I mean, we've never been a team that will need to go out and consistently beat the Old Firm. That's just not where it's not what we need to do to finish where we want to finish. We need to focus more on beating the teams that are around us and below us, because that's been our problem for the last few years anyway. But no, like you said, I think we could probably take a lot of positivity from that performance. From what I've seen on social media and stuff, is that people were pretty pleased with a point. 2 points out of 9 out of those 3 games. Shaun, if someone had said to you before the Hearts game at Tynecastle, 2 points out of 9, would you have taken it, or would you have expected to get a little bit more?
I expected us to win at Tiny, but I was definitely confident then. I think all in all, in hindsight, 2 points against arguably the three best or the three toughest opponents in the league. Yeah, I think all in all, you can't. I would have expected to have lost one of them at least. That's for sure. You'd obviously want to win the derby, but with it being at Tynecastle and it's obviously tough, so getting anything for that match. So yeah, realistically, 2 points out of those 9, considering where the games were as well, is not too bad. It's the other games now, like you say, that we need to start picking up points because the league is very, very tight at the moment. So
Absolutely, there's
I
like
like the
4
fact
points
that we've
between
aye,
what is it, 4th and 11th or something.
11th. So, and it's good that we've now got those what you would class as tougher runs of fixtures out the way, and we've now got
Yeah.
what you would class as winnable games. I know that's never the Hibs way, but we've now got games that you would
I
class
know,
as
but
more
they are.
winnable.
I mean, with all due respect to these teams, these are winnable games. You know, if you're an outsider looking in, you look at a Hibs versus a Ross County or a Hibs versus Motherwell or St Mirren. I know they're doing really well at the moment, but you would say Hibs should probably win that. Like looking down and like if Arsenal are playing like Thomas, what do you think? What do you want to say? If Arsenal were playing like Wolves or Burnley, something like that, you'd go a winnable game. So, well, I mean, with all due respect, we really should be winning those games. Obviously, it doesn't work like that. It never works like that. But we've got more of a chance of beating these teams than we do getting a result against playing the Old Firm back to back. So, you know, it's a good chance for us to try and implement a little bit more of our game plan and our strategy and stuff. So, listen,
Especially from an attacking sense as well.
yeah,
I
for sure.
think-
And we're not going to be as high pressed as we were against Celtic and Rangers and Hearts with us playing out from the back. So we might have a little bit more leeway of, you know, being able to get the ball down and play that way and get some.
No, I completely agree. And I think the fact that, listen, like you said, they're not going to be pressing us high. So we might then find it more difficult to find those spaces in behind, and they might be sitting a little bit deeper. So it might be frustrating to watch. I know we're not going to spend too much time on the Ross County game because it's not going to have enough time to breathe before the game actually kicks off tomorrow night. But I think we will. I think we'll do well. I do think that we'll win tomorrow night. I think it'll be 2 or 3-0 or 2 or 3-1. For me, it's just more about now trying to implement, now that we've got what you would class as a solid defensive performance, which we got against Celtic, which we definitely didn't get against Rangers. Can we now try and implement our attacking phases of play rather than working on our defensive phases of play and playing out for the back as well?
What I tell you what, Sean, what analysis! You're brilliant at this. Honestly, it's like you've been doing this for ages. Absolute quality.
I just appreciate a good manager who appreciates good football, you know?
Absolutely. So, I mean, just quickly touch on Ross County. 11th in the table. Like we said, there's really nothing in it for the majority of the table. I mean, and that's the first round of fixtures after this game, isn't it?
Yep.
I think so. Yes. I mean, and it's really kind of unheard of to the first quarter of the season, and it's still so tight. So, you know, it's probably going to be a more difficult game than we think. Yes, they're 11th, but they're not 11th by an awful lot. I think they're only a couple of points behind us, so we can't really. I don't think we can really afford to treat it lightly.
No, I think the thing is as well, like you said, we're coming to the end of the first round of fixtures, and I've already touched on the fact that we need to start putting wins against these winnable teams. We need to remember that St Mirren, Dundee, Motherwell, Aberdeen, Ross County are all a game behind us because of call-offs.
Yeah.
So it's all fine and well us sitting saying, right, between 11th and 4th, there's 4 points, but almost all those teams, or half those teams, are played a game less. So if hypothetically, if they win, or a couple of them win them and they're not draws, then a gap's going to start to open up. So especially with the game that we've got coming up at the weekend, tomorrow night, Tuesday night it's for me, it's a must win. And it'll give us all the confidence that we need going into the weekend as well.
Yeah, I
up
think
against
so,
a very, what I think, a very poor Aberdeen side at the moment, albeit they won at Ibrox.
They are struggling. They really are struggling, and you could tell. I mean, they were really poor against Kilmarnock.
Mingin, they were
that was
rotten
yesterday,
against
wasn't it?
them. Yeah, they were
Was
rotten
that
against
yesterday?
Philly.
Yeah.
Yep.
But no, tomorrow night. Do you think Jay will start? Is this the start of his redemption arc?
Do you know what? I think he might be involved again. It wouldn't surprise me. I think the fact that we've got such an important fixture, and listen, I'm not underestimating Ross County. We definitely can't, because we never seem to get many results against them at home. And they're a tough side, tough to break down. But Jair didn't really do too much wrong at the weekend, but he also didn't do too much right. But not a lot of our attackers done too much right going forward. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him in again. I am very, very curious to see how Monty lines up, because, like I said, he'll stick to his principles, 4-4-2. However, I will be intrigued to see what that starting 11 looks like. Will Stevenson come in for a beater? Will Whitaker maybe come in for Miller? I don't know. Hanlon maybe come in for Fish or Rocky. I know at the moment it's Rocky and Hanlon that are getting alternated between, but to give Fish a rest, I don't know. I would be very surprised if I'd be very surprised if it ends up as a midfield four of Boyle, Jago, Newell, and Eliuan. But on the same side, I wouldn't. I'm going to contradict myself here. I also wouldn't be surprised, because Nick knows what his best 11 is clearly.
Mhm.
So why would he not want to play that best 11, get the game won, and then maybe try and take players off? I know it's not that easy, but when you've got players like Paul Hanlon on the bench, solid player, can come in, do a job against the Ross County, why not? Lewis Stevenson, again, same again. Dylan Levitt, will we need his creativity a little bit? Will he come in for Jago, or will he come in for Newell? Vice versa. Josh Campbell, could he come in for Newell? Could Joe Newell play in a midfield two against Ross County? Probably not, but who knows? And then you've got Adam Lafondre as well, where we could have Dylan Venti maybe on the bench or whatever. The whole squad could be up for a wee shake, and I wouldn't be opposed to it, considering I don't want to say the quality that we have in the squad, because I do feel like our squad lacks some real quality and like strength and depth, but we have good players that can step in against the Ross County.
Absolutely. And then I don't think we'll talk a lot more about Ross County, because if you're listening to this on Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon, the game will be tonight. We're recording this on Monday evening, so for us the game is tomorrow. But I'll get a prediction off you, Shaun, because we don't usually get to talk about games the night before we play them. So what is your prediction for tomorrow? I know you said it's 3-0 or 3-1 earlier on, but are you sticking by that, or are you going to
I'll stick to a 2-1 or a 3-1 or a 2-0, 3-0 kind of thing. I
Right, so
feel
you
like
need to choose one, because
I'll
that's scattergun.
go 3-0. 3-0 to the
3-0.
Cabbage.
I'll take it. I think I will go with 2-0 to Hibs. And it's never going to be 2-0, because my predictions are never right. So yeah, it's probably going to be 3-0 or 3-1. So one of the ones that you said, I think, Shaun, is what it'll be. But yes, what we've all been waiting for many years. Back to Hampden again on
Does feel like
Saturday.
a while. Does feel
It
like a
does seem
while
like a
since
while,
we've
but
been there.
it's only been one season that we haven't been there.
Yeah.
The last time there was against Celtic, wasn't it? So
Yeah. Celtic.
so we just need to it's only been one
It's
season.
not
We just
like
never
us
got there
though.
last year.
It is. It's not like us. We're normally
Nah.
regulars, albeit we
Well,
don't see things through.
they
We're
do
normally
call it
regulars
Easter
and
Road
being there.
West, and they don't call it Easter Road West for no reason. Back at Hampden again. I mean, we need to get a season ticket at this rate, I think. Against Aberdeen. Last time we played them there was in the Scottish Cup in 2012?
2012, yeah.
2012, and we won 2-1. I remember, was it Scott Vernon scored an absolute zinger from about 40 yards out. Gary
I was
O'Connor
watching it
scored,
in Australia
and
at the
Lee Griffiths
time.
scored. I was there.
Aye.
I was
Funny,
there, I
it's
remember
not
me
really a
buzzing.
funny story, because it didn't really work out very funny in the end. But when I left to go to Australia at the end of January, it was just after we had beat Kelly. It was Kelly we played one of the rounds
In the
before.
quarters, yeah.
Yeah, I came back.
Oh
Came
no,
back
that was the season after.
Oh no, that was the following season. Sorry. So I was in. It was regardless. It was in January, and I was obviously going to Australia, traveling at the end of January, and I said I'll only come home because my plan was to go there for the full year. I'll only come home if we get to the Scottish Cup final, and the Scottish Cup final is against Hearts. So at this point, the whole Scottish Cup has got to be played. Like we've got to go through pretty much most of the rounds. And then it got to the semi-finals, and obviously they were against Celtic. So I was like, right, cool. If we're going to play Celtic, I'm not fucking going home for that. They're going to get beat anyway. They obviously go on to win. But I had the semi-final against Aberdeen, so I was watching it in Perth, and it was like after the two semi-finals, it was like I was begrudging myself having to pay for a flight home. I was like, fucking hell, I'm gonna have to come home now because I said it, and then obviously what happened. But
Did you
listen,
actually come home?
I did come home. I did come home.
That's a sickener. But I mean,
I wa-
imagine we'd won and you hadn't been there.
well, I flew back to Australia pretty much straight after it.
How much did that cost
And
you?
and I was too much because it was short notice as well. And I was sitting next to a Jambo for part of the flight, which was great. But I won't go into the details as to why, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise coming home. So it worked out quite well for me on a personal note before I went back to Australia. So
Oh well, just knowing a football note, unfortunately.
correct.
But
Enough of
so
that nonsense.
enough of that nonsense. Back to the League Cup. Enough about the fucking Scottish Cup. That's Diddy Cup compared to the League Cup. What we've got on Saturday. So we were speaking off air about the amount of times that we have been in a League Cup semi-final since the turn of the century, and you said it was 8 times.
Correct.
8 times. Celtic twice, Rangers twice, St Johnstone 3 times, and Ayr United once. So
Won
it's the
4,
first time.
lost 4.
It's the first time since the turn of the century that we played Aberdeen in a League Cup semi-final. They are in a little bit of a free fall at the moment. Like we said, didn't play well against Kilmarnock yesterday. Yes, they beat Rangers at Ibrox, but I feel like Aberdeen, when they play Rangers, it's a little bit of a different. It's like a different vibe, a different level than what they would play when they would play us or Hearts or Kilmarnock, even for that matter. So I'm not too fussed about that. Do you think it's a game that we should be looking to progress in?
Yes, and this hopefully doesn't come back to bite me in the arse, but I have absolutely no doubt that we'll get the job done on Saturday.
Aberdeen 3-0 then.
Yeah, I think I've watched. I've actually not watched their game at Ibrox when they won, but obviously that was with everything that was going on with Rangers at the time. Every other game that I've watched, or almost all the games I've watched at Aberdeen, they've looked very, very poor defensively, and they've looked a bit all over the shop and a bit suspect in the middle of the park as well. And I know
They're kind of a
sometimes they
far
play with a
cry from what they
3.
were last season, eh?
Well, towards the end of last season, aye, that's for sure. And I think they're there to be got at. Sometimes they play with a 3, sometimes they play with a 4. They change shape throughout matches depending on their opponent. So we could potentially be exposed in the middle of the park. But again, I have absolutely no doubt that the way that Monty will try and implement his game plan and his style at Hampden on such a big pitch against an Aberdeen side. Listen, Joe Newell and Jimmy Jeggo, barring an injury tomorrow night, are going to be in for one hell of a shift. And whoever that second striker is going to be in for one hell of a shift as well. However, I cannot wait to see Boyle and Yuan either side of the pitch with all that free space to run into and exposing that Aberdeen backline.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it gives us a lot of confidence going into the game. The fact that we've already beaten them this season at Pittodrie, and what in the end was a pretty comfortable and routine victory. With all credit to Aberdeen, it's not easy to go up there and win, but we made it look fairly easy when we went up there earlier in the season, and at that time we weren't any great shakes either. So we've only got better since then, and I feel like Aberdeen have probably stagnated a little bit, maybe even got a little bit worse. I wish Mark was on the pod tonight because you know what his feelings are towards Barry Robson. I mean,
he could get his wish because Baldy on the other side of the city is close to potentially getting his jotters, and he did say that Barry Robson would be sacked, I'm pretty sure, before Christmas. So his
I
prediction
think
is
he said that Barry
looking.
Robson would be the first to be sacked, though,
Well, he's wrong there.
and that was Lee Johnson.
Aye, I think it could still work out in his favour. With him getting sacked, and it'll certainly be a better prediction than his Dundee United to finish in the top 6.
Absolutely. I mean, he's going to go from worst take of the year to best take of the year, probably.
Yeah.
Although, will it count? Because he said it last season, so I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure if we can count that in the Ramble Awards come the end of the season.
Well, it'll be up for tough opposition if we go on to win the League Cup, considering the end of season review I said we'd win the League Cup.
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose so. But yeah, tell us about some of your favourite League Cup Hampden memories. You've got one behind you that you were telling me about off air.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go through them all, but the earlier ones in the turn of the century stick in my mind more than the more recent ones. I remember not going to the Ayr one, thankfully, but I remember us playing in the purple strip. I think, if memory serves me correct, Sozzy was the manager at the time. We lost 1-0. John Hughes was playing for Ayr at the time, and he wasn't shy in celebrating the win. And I went to my bed in tears. But a couple of years later, yeah, that's probably my favourite one at the lot, if I'm honest. Because for the life of me, I can't remember the 2016 one against St Johnstone, and albeit that was it.
That was at
Tiny.
Tynecastle.
That was at Tiny, and I
We
don't
got a
think I was
penalty
there.
early on, I think, did we not? Jason Cummins scored a penalty, and then they
Jason Cummins
equalised.
scored first, and then John McGinn scored.
And John McGinn scored and did a belly slide. I was sitting right in the front row in the wheat field for that game. And I remember, like, the ball, because where I was sitting, like, there wasn't a ball boy anywhere near me. The ball kept coming over to me, and I just kept flinging it away for the St Johnstone player. Mate, I was about, how old was I? I must have been about fucking 19 or something. Like, that's embarrassing, eh? 19-year-old Liam trying to bam up fucking whoever it was, Ricky Foster or something, who was playing at fullback for
it's
St
good. Like,
Johnstone.
it's good. But I think my favourite one would probably be the Rangers one that we won on penalties back in 2004. Obviously, very in Hibs fashion, very unfortunate what happened in the final against Livy, but it was a school night. Took a very good Rangers side to pens, beat them on pens. Daniel Anderson masterclass in goals. One of the De Boer brothers missed the decisive penalty. One of my best mates got the day off school the following day, and I got forced to go to school, so I landed a minute. So I wasn't best pleased about that part.
Sean
But no, it was a great
Corrigan
night.
is
Great night.
Grass.
Sean Lee Wallace Corrigan.
Yep.
But for the life of me, I can't remember the John McGinn one. In 2016.
And you can't even blame it on the drink either, Sean.
Nah, I can't. But do you know what's weird? I actually can't even remember the 2007 one against St Johnstone either. Again at Tynecastle. I must have went to one of them, if not both of them. Yeah, I can't remember either of them at all. Maybe because it was at Tynecastle. I must have went to one of them, but I can't. But obviously the one that I'm most gutted about from a selfish perspective was the Rangers one the other year.
Were you not there?
I wasn't there. No, I wasn't.
That was a great night.
Couldn't make it. Managed to get back home in time to watch the game. My neighbours were not best pleased. I was screaming the house down because obviously we were on a minging run at the time. So I think overall, obviously we've had 8 since the turn of the year, 4-4. 4 wins, 4 defeats, if my maths is correct or my calculations are correct. And it, probably for me, my favourite ones out the 4 victories would be the 2 Rangers ones.
Well, this is it, mate. This is it, and hopefully your next favourite one is the one that we're going to see on Saturday. But I would say I'm looking forward to it. I am looking forward to it, but I can't make it. So I mean, I've been pretty pish with actually getting to Hibs games this season. But you know, being a dad of 2 young bairns, it's not as easy to get to the games as it once was. But I'll be watching, cheering along from my living room with a pint of Guinness, no doubt. My old man's going to come over and watch it as well. So looking forward to watching it on the telly. But I really wish I was going to be there. I don't know if I'm feeling a little bit detached from it because I'm not going to be there. But listen, I don't know. But no, I mean, I would ask you for a prediction now, but I don't think Craig would be overly happy if we gave out predictions now. So we'll maybe keep that until Saturday morning or something. But are you looking forward to it anyway? Where are you sitting? Are you sitting in the behind the goals or side of the
Sitting
park?
kind of in the corner between I think it's one of the first one or two sections when the price and the tickets come down. So just in the corner at the corner flag, maybe about halfway up or something. There's 8 of us going. We've got 2 rows of 4 tickets, so we're all together. So when we do score that second, third, or fourth goal, the limbs are just as good. But now, really, really looking forward to it. I think because the whole Monty factor for me as well, and how much I'm really throwing my little weight behind him. I am really looking forward to it, and I think he'll, like I said, could come back to bite me in the arse, but I'm very confident.
Well, you were very confident before we went into Tynecastle as well, and
We didn't
we
lose.
we didn't lose. Aye, that's true. But I mean, so I'm not really taking any positives from your confidence, to be honest with you, mate. But
hopefully someone that's listening does. So I know it's Hibs at Hampden, but
Hibs
listen,
at Hampden's usually fairly good though.
I'm on
So
the
I
Monty.
mean,
I'm on the Monty train. So long may it continue, and hopefully he doesn't let me down. Or if he does, I'll be having words.
this is it. This is it. But what we will do now is we will move on to this week's listener questions.
Now it's time to answer the Hibs Ramble listener questions.
Right, Shaun, first up, John McIntosh, as always, what is for dinner?
I think I'm having a paella. Maybe a chicken. If I'm right, it's prawn, chicken, and chorizo paella.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
What I want is soup and tiger bread and Hunter's lure pack, but there is no soup or tiger bread in the house. So needing to make an executive decision whether I have something else that's in the house or I go out to the shop and get myself what I want.
You'll feel
So
better going out to the shop and getting what you want.
Will I though? Because it's
What?
freezing cold, pitch black.
It'll make it even better because if you substitute what you want with a mediocre second class dinner, finding something that's in the cupboards or in the fridge, you're not going to be happy with it. But if
Because you will be not shocked to hear that we are between shops
of
at the
course,
moment. And no, but we genuinely are. That's the
Of
thing. Like
course.
like the last week since we last recorded, we've had genuinely food in all the time. But we're going to get the food shop tomorrow, so you know what it's like. But fucking hell, I mean, Mondays are always a really bad day for my dinners because we never get the shop in at the weekend. It's always at the start of the week on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or something. So shoot me, Shaun. Next up, my dad, Colin McLennan, with the passing of football legend, and he's put legend in inverted commas, Sir Bobby Charlton. I don't think legend should be in inverted commas. Bobby Charlton was a football legend.
Yeah, he was. I think he's just because he's English and
He's just
just
bitter.
for Man United.
Bitter man. Bitter old bald man, I think. What he's asking is, what current Hibs player has the ability to become a legend?
Excluding the fact that Paul Hanlon and Lewis Stevenson are still in the squad.
Yeah, I think that would be a cop-out answer, I think.
I think you would probably, a modern day legend, you could probably already class Martin Boyle as one, considering he has especially the journey he's been on as a player and what he's done for the club and coming back and everything. I mean, he got a Legends reception when he came back, didn't he? So
Yeah, this is
listen, I would be desperate for somebody like Joe Newell or somebody like that to go on and lift a trophy for Hibs and just cement kind of like a legendary status, especially the journey he's had since he joined. So somebody like that would be great. Ability
I just want Harry
wise,
McCurdy. I want Harry McCurdy to become a legend. I just want to see the celebration once. Just once, please. Once, Harry. If you're listening, that's all I want to do. Just once in a Hibs top. It can be Easter Road. It can be at Almondvale, it can be at Hampden, it can be at Tynecastle, it can be anywhere you want. Just please score once before you leave. That's all I'm asking. Thank you. So I'm going to go Harry McCurdy, and you're going to go with...
I'll go Joe Neal.
You'll go with Joe Neal. Next up, Gav Dick. I'm not going to slaughter your grammar or spelling because I am not that guy. Well-earned point. Is Jade on the road to redemption? Also, are you looking forward to Saturday? I'm buzzing already. Can't wait. I hope he's on the road to redemption. I mean, I think it would be a shame if we hyped him up as much. Sorry, the club hyped him up as much as they did when we signed him, only for him to kind of fall flat on his face last season. And in the fact that he's not went out on loan and Monty's kind of trusting him a little bit this season, I'd really like to think that a redemption arc is coming.
I think it's for me. I think it's more along the lines of we're giving him game time to actually give him a chance, and then take our hit and move him on, whether that's as a permanent or as a loan in the summer in the winter window, and then we might see the likes of another player come back or someone better brought in.
Yeah. And then on the second part of the question, we've just covered that about looking forward to the semi-final. We certainly are looking forward to the semi-final, Gav, and I hope you are as well. Paul Mackay has got in touch and he has said, how much credit do you give to Monty for sticking with his principles over how we play, keeping a 4-4-2 and showing the faith in the youth with the two young lads on the bench? Something, again, that we touched on earlier on.
I think given the young players the time on the bench just buys you as a manager a little bit more time, especially early doors. So like if this wasn't going the way that Monty was hoping that it was going to go, the fact that he's given younger players a chance and an opportunity on the bench or in the starting 11, that buys him a little bit more time as well.
Exactly. And I think it's shown tremendous belief in the players and trust in the players. I mean, I've said that word quite a lot of times throughout this episode, but the trust I think that he has shown and given to these players is going to pay off. I think with Lee Johnson, he was probably culprit of making too many big changes too often. So, you know, if something didn't work one week, then he would automatically change it then for the next week. And, you know, sometimes that works for some managers, but some managers don't like to do that. And Monty's clearly someone who wants to stick to the way that he feels the game should be played. I think similarly to Shaun Maloney, hopefully he gets better results than Shaun Maloney did. But yeah, I think if you show trust in the players will show trust in you, and it's only going to lead to good things, I think, anyway. Next up, Jack Gillis from Strong Opinion, and he says, how good was Mr. Jimmy Jago at the weekend?
Very, very good. It's good to see that whatever changes Monty has made to his personal duties on the pitch, it's working, and it's really he's took his game to another level without really doing anything extra within his current role. He's not doing anything outstanding. He's just doing the basics, and he's doing them very, very well.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's what we've been talking about all season, really, isn't it? I mean, I think him playing in a midfield too really kind of showcases what he's good at. And I think actually it showcased a little bit more from him than what we saw last season. Obviously, last season he was playing in that more sixth defensive role, but now he's playing a little bit more advanced because he has to. I think he's kind of shown that he does have a little bit more ability than a lot of people thought. And, you know, maybe some people are starting to take a little bit of a U-turn on how they think about him, because he was a pretty divisive figure, you know, across like a large section of the support for last season. So it's good to see that folk are getting behind him now. You know, we've kind of said for a while that, you know, he's not here to play the Xavi or Iniesta ball. He's here to play that Matty Jack, Marvin Bartley role, and I think he's doing that tremendously well at the moment. And, you know, I'm really, really chuffed for him. Harvey Scott is asking, Chinese or Indian, in brackets, the food?
Thanks for the brackets there. I really was confused right enough by it. I
think he's trying to cover his own back, to be honest.
Yeah, true. I think, listen, I do like both. I'm not going to sit on the fence here, don't worry. My preferred choice out of the two would not be an Indian, though, unfortunately. They do have some delicious meals, of course, but no, my go-to scran is the Chinese. But I think for me, it depends on, from a Chinese perspective, from a Chinese food perspective, you need it to be the right restaurant. It needs to be the right takeaway for you. And once you find that right takeaway, you ain't going anywhere else. Whereas if I was to come into yours, I'd probably feel more inclined to get an Indian or something, because I feel like that's going to be of a similar standard,
Yeah.
regardless of where you go.
There's not many great Indians around near me, actually. I don't get Indian takeaway very often, because if I've got the choice between a Chinese and an Indian and I'm getting a takeaway, I'll usually get a Chinese. But if I'm going out for a meal, then I don't think I would go, unless it was like a Chinese buffet. I would much rather get like a sit-down Indian rather than a sit-down Chinese. But
Yeah,
no,
no,
if I'm
I
ordering a
agree.
takeaway, then
Yeah.
I get a Chinese. I use New Fortune Cookie at Newington. I think it's at Newington. And they're really good. There's quite a few good Chinese takeaways out next to me in the sticks. So that's one
Yeah,
thing that.
that's the thing. I use Focus and Musselburgh. Musselburgh's got quite a few decent
Aye, I
Chinese
mean,
restaurants, to be
that's the
fair.
thing here. When you live
But
out in the sticks, the takeaways are actually usually pretty half decent.
and I think the Focus in Musselburgh is by far the best Chinese restaurant that I've ever ordered food from. But like if I was to go elsewhere, I would then be reluctant to then get my same order or something similar, because my
What's your
expectation
go-to?
would then be too high. Used to be lemon chicken, then it used to be salt and chili chicken. Now it's shredded chicken, rice and salt and chili chips with obviously sauce over it.
Yeah, curry sauce.
Chloe gets the curry sauce, I get the sweet and sour sauce.
I do see my orders change as well. I really like lemon chicken as well, but I don't think I would order it for the Chinese. Like I wouldn't order it. But like if someone else has ordered it, then I'll have a wee bit. But my order has changed recently, so I am now a crispy shredded beef man in chili and honey sauce, and then I'll just get fried rice, probably salt and chili chips, and I like a wee vegetable spring roll myself as well. Doesn't look like I enjoy vegetables, but it's the deep fried bit that I enjoy of the vegetable spring roll, Sean, as you can probably imagine. But Indian, what's your go-to Indian order?
I don't actually have a go-to Indian order, because whenever we've ordered one or we've went out, it's more of a case of getting loads of different dishes and then sharing it all between us. You?
I like a lamb rogan Josh.
But I do,
And
the thing is, I do the same when we go out to like those types of restaurants, or like when we go out to like a Japanese restaurant, or if we go out to a Korean restaurant, it's get as much scran as you can and then just share it all. And I feel like that maybe better suited.
yeah, no, to be fair, see, I've never been to a Japanese restaurant or a Korean restaurant or anything like that, so I've never tried that sort of food. But it's like Megan, she's not really into that sort of thing, so I didn't really want to go by myself. But maybe I can go with you and Chloe next
Oh,
time
yeah,
you
right,
go.
okay. Is that where you're right? You're more than welcome. More than welcome.
I'll jump on, mate. I'll third wheel yous. But I like a lamb rogan Josh and like a garlic naan or a keema naan, and just I like all food, to be honest with you, mate. Like I'm not gonna beat
Aye,
around the
pal.
bush. I'm a big fat fuck, and I enjoy everything, to be honest with you. Moving on, we've got the Rebel Highbie, and they ask, please discuss. Did you see this? Please discuss Kevin Bushiri coming out swinging for Rocky. Did you see this on Instagram the other day?
I called someone out because I can't remember what it was. I don't remember the boy's comment, but then he replied, I'm assuming he's Rocky's agent as well, having a go, being like, that wasn't what you were saying when you were in his DMs begging for a match one strip or something like that, and then crying that you weren't getting it or some nonsense like that. I love it. I've got so much time for that kind of banter. And listen, I want to see more of that.
I thought it was hilarious, and I'm so glad that we got a chance to talk about it. I mean, wasn't going to probably make it into the proper running order, but I'm so glad that the Rebel Highbees has submitted that question because I thought it was hilarious when I seen it. You know, it's just funny the fact that it's his agent going, "Oh, you're crying in DMs asking for his top." Oh mate, that guy must have had an absolute
Must
beam
be
of
a
day.
wee, it'll be a wee burn or something like that as well. Get
Which
that
makes
account
it funnier
deactivated.
as well. Like that makes
Aye.
it funnier. Next up, James Kinneborough. How good can this team be, and what changes do we make for Ross County?
I think it's I don't want to get into the realms of how good can the team be, because we can see what the team was like under a different regime and how poor it was at times. So I think with the right recruitment, with the right people in charge, as we've seen with Brian McDermott and then Monty coming in and the coaching staff, I think over time, if that structure stays in place with the right level of recruitment, where we're constantly bringing in better players rather than squad players, then
Yeah.
it's only in good ways.
And any changes that you'd make for County that you
Um,
didn't talk about earlier on?
I would probably change most of the 11 if I'm honest. I would get Hanlon in, I'd get Stevenson in, I'd want Levitt in.
You just kind of
I'd
want to
want
avoid injuries, really, don't you? That's the main thing.
I'd want Levitt in for Newell, but at the same time, I don't want Jago then getting injured. So are we at the point where we could risk Levitt and Campbell in the middle of the park? Probably not.
Put Rocky in
but
there.
Imagine.
I put Rocky in the 6. That'll do. Or put Kevin Bashiri in the 6. That might do. Next up, Albert Street. This is one half of a double header question. And now I don't know your answer to this, Shaun. I've never asked you before, but what do you prefer, crunchy or smooth peanut butter? Or do you even like peanut butter?
Don't like peanut butter.
Really?
Don't like peanut butter. No.
Do you like peanuts at all?
I would probably go smooth. Like, surely the crunchy one can't be that great.
No, crunchy. See, I would be a crunchy guy. Like, it depends what you're having it on, though, eh? Like, the smooth is good. Crunchy is good as well. I think I would have crunchy because it just adds a different dimension, eh? Like, see if the Reese's peanut butter cups had crunchy peanut butter in them instead of smooth, I think they would be a lot better than they are. I mean, they're really good. I really like them, but they would be a lot better than they are. But that's baffling that you don't like peanut butter, Shaun. Do you not like peanuts at all? Like peanut M&Ms or?
It's never really been something that I've went out and bought or found myself eating, if I'm honest.
Snickers?
I didn't like Snickers. Snickers is
Oh,
crap.
we've had this conversation already, haven't we?
Aye, Snickers is crap.
No, but like I was going to say, you've never been at the pub and then had some nuts, but you don't drink, Shaun. So
I mean, that doesn't stop me going into a pub, Liam.
No, I know, but you wouldn't be like, "Oh, Kim, what I really want is a fucking packet of nuts," because who wants a packet of nuts when they're sober?
Yeah, no, I get your point, though. I get your point.
You know what I mean? So I'm sorry for offending you, but at the same time, I'm not really that sorry.
I'm not offended. Don't you worry.
That'll be good because I wasn't really that sorry in the first place.
Didn't think so.
The second half of Albert Street's question is: how night and day was that compared to playing the Sticky Buns?
Yeah, I think it was good to see, and I think I touched on it with the tweet that I put out on Twitter. Just the fact that we had good individual performances, which made up a very good team performance, where it was night and day from last week. And I think that just goes to show when you do your individual duties correctly and do them well, what level of performance the whole overall team can put in.
Absolutely. Last couple of questions from Twitter before we move over to the Instagram questions. Kev Wilson has just sent one in as we are recording this, and he says, do we make any changes for tomorrow night with an eye on Saturday's game, or is continuity in the starting 11 the thing for us? What do you think will be running through Monty's head? We've already heard what Sean Corrigan, Hibs manager, would do. What will Nick Montgomery, Hibs manager, do?
I think he'll probably end up staying with most of the same starting 11, which would concern me, considering the amount of games in short period of time that like Boyle, Newell, Jago, Miller have all played, especially Miller going international duty, Boyle going international duty as well. So I do think most of the team will be the same, but I think maybe Hanlon and Stevenson will come in, maybe Lafondre will start.
We have seen a little bit of rotation in those areas, so
yeah,
That's probably where it's going to be most likely. Like, I mean, you'd maybe in an ideal world want to rest players and make sure that they're at full fitness for Saturday, but this isn't an ideal world, Sean.
But the thing is,
And
at the same time, you could play the same starting 11 or your strongest starting 11. We could blow Ross County away. I'm not saying that we've got that in us, but we could. And then those players then
they could all
continue
get
that
injured in
lively
training.
performance into the weekend because they're off the back of a 2-3-4 5-0 win, and Boyle scored 2, Venti scored 2, whereas at the moment they've not scored. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I think this is the decision that Nick Montgomery is going to make. I don't think it's as cut and dry as rest players, keep them fit, or get them on the park for continuity. I think there's going to be a lot more thinking and a lot more kind of thought process behind it. So we'll probably see a mix of both, to be honest. I don't think we'll see wholesale changes, don't get me wrong. I think, like what you said, just a couple of changes here and there. Keep the most important players, make sure that they stay fit. You know, if we're comfortable after an hour, 65 minutes maybe, then it's maybe time to think about taking the players that you don't want injured off. Not saying that
You've also
Ross
got
County
to
will go out,
remember though, I don't think the Aberdeen squad is overly strong. Like not just the starting 11, but the overall squad. And they've been playing 2 games in a week for a good couple of weeks now. They've got European fixtures to look forward to. They've got big game after big game. They played on Sunday. They're then playing Wednesday and then Saturday, whereas we are Saturday, Tuesday.
Do you think that them having the Conference League is a factor in where they are in the Premier League?
Yeah, I do.
Think so? Or do you think
do
you think it's like the same as Hearts last season? Because when I look at how Hearts ended up last season, personally, as a football fan, I didn't think that Hearts strengthened enough, anywhere near enough to compete on a Thursday and then at the weekend as well. And listen, I know that our football clubs in this country, out with the Old Firm, probably aren't financially capable of having, 2 strong starting 11s, because that's what you need essentially for competing in both of these competitions. But I just felt like Aberdeen have made the same mistakes Hearts did, even though they saw them do it last season. So
yeah, I mean, the thing is that's exactly it though. It's a tough thing to do realistically, whether it was Europa League or whether it was Conference League.
It was always going to be tough for any squad.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what group you got put in, you were going to be put in a very difficult group. And then similar to what Hearts didn't do to what Aberdeen have then done, if they've not added so many bodies to improve the overall squad, whether it's a squad that you're looking at or whether it's a starting 11, come December or come January or February when they're kicked out the group stages, what are you meant to do with all these other players? Because then all you've got left is the Scottish Cup.
That's what I'm saying, like, because these teams aren't financially capable. There's no guarantee that, like, I mean, Hearts could have went out last season and strengthened their squad in numbers, but there was no guarantee that they would have been back in a European competition this season. So it's kind of, you need to strike a balance, really, don't you? Because you can't have all these different players on your books. And to be honest, I mean, not particularly for Hearts or really for Aberdeen, but it's probably a bit of a pickle that these teams are getting themselves in. And I mean, even to an extent, maybe Celtic and Rangers, maybe not so much Celtic, because I think Celtic have got the power to then rotate more often than any other
They did
team
go
would.
through a phase though, having like Barkas and goals and a Jetty and stuff like that.
This is it. Swings and roundabouts, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, where they'd spent loads of money and it hadn't worked out and they needed to try and move them on and couldn't they? So
yeah, and I think that would be much more damning for a side like Aberdeen, Hearts, Hibs, anyone like that. So it's probably not. Everyone wants to be in European competition. Everyone wants to be in group stages, but at the end of the day, it's maybe not the best thing. But that's mental for saying that. It's just maybe not the best thing clearly not for Aberdeen, because you look at how they're doing in the league and they're being pumped in Europe every week, and also that's me off on a tangent about that anyway. So I'm
Get up,
I'm
Tom.
gonna pull myself back in. Did we answer Kevin's question? Yes, we did. And now for the most important part of the pod. In your eyes, anyway, Sean, we've got Liam Riley's overrated, underrated. Starting off with Liam Miller. And for me,
Underrated.
I'm going to say underrated. I thought Liam Miller's loved by Hibs fans, and quite rightly so. I'm not just going to say underrated because he died, but I think he was superb,
Yeah,
and
I
I
think
don't
we
think
were.
people realise how good he actually was. And also, as a caveat to that, Craig would be happy that I've shoehorned that phrase in. I also thought Kevin McBride was brilliant when he played alongside him.
Completely agree. I completely agree. I think Liam Miller, for me, the thing is, I don't think people don't not rate him. I just don't think he's spoken about in the same bracket of
Like Scott Allen and
or even
McGillop.
like Boozy or somebody like that. Do you know what I mean? I think Liam Miller technically was a tremendous player. God rest his soul. And he was just very unfortunate to find himself in what was deemed as a very poor Hibs side
Yeah,
at that time, and we were probably lucky to have him
we
when
were
we did.
very lucky to have him. I mean, the caliber of player that he was when he came to Hibs, like he wasn't finished or anything like that.
No
So
way. Yeah,
the fact that we got him in was it was pretty impressive, and he really didn't disappoint. So underrated for me. I think we'll always look back on that penalty against Hearts with much fondness. I remember him walking up to take that. I think Derek Riordan was on the pitch as well, and I remember my thought process was, why is Liam Miller taking it? Why isn't Derek Riordan taking it? But I didn't care after it went in. So that's the main thing. Next up, overrated, underrated, and I'm going to go underrated. Paul Heckingbottom.
I completely and utterly agree with you. I'm
Look at this high football
still
IQ, guys.
still to this day a little bit less now because Monty and I rate Monty, blah blah blah, whatever, right? For those that don't really realise that I'm rimming Monty every week here. I'm still to this day raging that we got rid of Monty. Listen, his recruitment, like all our recruitment since then, probably since before Lenny, or since Lenny himself, it was poor. I feel like he was let down by the board. I feel like he was let down by the recruitment. I don't think it was helped by some of the players that he brought in, because I feel like he maybe underestimated the league a little bit. But listen, he brought Joe Newell in, and look at Joe Newell. I think he just needed a little bit more time, and I think
Boyd
we
as
maybe
well.
just needed to transition out of some of the players that were in the squad and bring in a little bit better quality and trust his process. I think it says, what speaks volumes for me is he did not play Marvin Bartley for a single minute while Marvin Bartley was still at Hibs, and Marvin Bartley could have still done a job for Hibs at that point. Marvin Bartley maintains to this day that Paul Heckingbottom is the best manager and best coach that he's had.
Madness, eh?
And he didn't play him for a single minute, but he learnt the most from him. And I don't know if that's maybe because of where Marv was in his career at that point and the journey that he'd had. But if you think about the managers and coaches that Marvin Bartley's had down south at Burnley and stuff like that, and then coming up in the success he had under Stubbs, to then say that somebody that never played him for a single minute is the best, or one of the best, or the best coaches that he's had, says it all. I just think it's unfortunate that he underestimated either the club or the league or the players that were in the league.
I think
So
you
yeah,
can see it
underrated.
now. I mean, like last season, he romped the champ. They won the championship, didn't they?
Yeah, sure they did.
Did they? Aye. So no, they never.
Did
Burnley
they
won
not?
the championship.
Oh,
Burnley won the championship. Came second.
Burnley romped
But
it, came second, and
I'm
then
pretty
Luton
sure
went up.
there were eeksy peeksy at the top. Like there wasn't an awful lot
He
between
done
them.
a
I think.
very good job last season, regardless.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he got them promoted at first time you asking? Was it first time you asking for Sheffield United? Aye, it was,
I
because
remember.
they got relegated when he was in interim charge, didn't he? And he took the job permanently and got them promoted. So, I mean, I always kind of liked the way that he spoke. Yeah, I think maybe he did underestimate the club in the league a little bit, but no, I think he was a half decent manager. It got a little bit sour towards the end, as it usually does with managers, but No, I think you can see now what he's doing. He's clearly not, you know, a dud. He's not like a Bobby Williamson or someone who's going to go on to do fuck all. He's managing in the Premier League, and he's doing all right as well. To be honest, he's doing not half bad. Next up is Zamama, overrated, underrated, and I think I've been thinking about this one all day, and I keep going between overrated and underrated. I think I'm going to have to say underrated.
Yeah, for me, he's again, not because he's not rated, because he clearly is.
File under Liam Miller.
But yeah, he's definitely underrated. And I think for me, when you talk about creative number 10s, I know he was number 4 and number 7 and whatever, but like that kind of player, like small, agile, magician, could do anything with the ball at his feet. He ticked all those boxes, and those types of players don't come around that often.
Exactly, yeah.
You've got obviously him, you've got like the likes of Scott Allen that we had. We only had Liam Henderson for a short period of time, so you can't really class him in that kind of bracket. But then, other than Zamama and Scott Allen, you're going back to Russell Latape for me in regards to that type of mouldy player. Listen, I'm not saying he's on Russell Latape's level, but he's a very, very talented player. And, growing up, I loved him to bits.
Is that Zamama? You know, I don't really remember an awful lot of Russell Latape playing for Hibs. And so Zamama was the first time that I'd seen someone like that play for Hibs. You know, someone who was just, you know, really good in the middle of the park, like had all the tricks. You know, when you're a wee guy, that's what you're bothered about. You're bothered about Maradona spins and keepy uppies and all that shit. You know what I mean? So he was the first player that sort of had that. And there's not really been an awful lot of players since then that have had that same level of talent. He's looked back on very, very fondly. I think he was more than the tricks. He was more than, you know, the close dribbling. I think he was also a very intelligent player.
Some good goals against Hearts in that as well, and I'm sure he scored one very early on, either against Hearts or one of the Old Firm or whatever at Easter Road. I remember that. It's like we scored within 30 seconds or something. I can't remember who it was against, but
he scored one against Hearts, and he chopped it in the box and took out 2 of their defenders at once and rolled it past. I think that was pretty early in the game, and then he set up Stokes' goal against Rangers. That was after like 12 seconds or something.
That's what I'm thinking
because I just remember, I mean, I was there, but watching it back on like YouTube and that, like on the Sky Sports, and it's Ian Crocker who's doing the commentary, and he goes, "Zamama is in a rush." That's the thing that I remember from that, and then he slips it through to Stokes. It's a great goal, and we get beat 4-1. It was a good 12 seconds.
I think it was good that he was also in and around good quality players. Like, unfortunately, in Liam Miller's case, Hibs were going through a bit of a transition, or we were at the beginning of that transition period prior to 2015-16. Whereas Zamama had like Scott Brown, he had Stephen Fletcher, he had Benji, David Murphy, he had all these
it was a
good,
really, really
players,
likeable Hibs team as well. It really was. I think if you're not a Hibs fan, you're looking at that Hibs team, you're probably looking at that and, you know, going, I quite like them, or I've got a wee soft spot for them. I mean, because we were really good and we had a lot of technically very good players.
I think he was enhanced by having John Collins and probably in charge, and not a lot of players were probably enhanced by having him as a coach. But
him and Benji, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll move on from Zamama. And next up is the first overrated of the list. And it's not by an awful lot, and I'll probably get slaughtered, but it's Ivan Sproul. And I think he's just a shade overrated. Literally just a shade. Rated is here, and I think Ivan Sproul is here. If I had to make a choice, I think I would need to go overrated, because I don't think he's underrated.
I'm going to agree with you on that one, but I think that's more maybe because you can see the type of player that Martin Boyle's developed himself into, whereas when they both came to the club, they were all running and nothing else. Ivan Sproul kind of stayed like that. Whereas
Yeah.
nowadays, with the right level of coaching and the right level of man management, it just goes to show what you can do when you apply yourself. Ivan Sproul is phenomenal for Hibs, but I think it's probably, when you look back on it now, like, what did we pay for him for, like $5,000 or something like that for him? I don't know, if it's some
I
dodgy.
mean, there probably is a case for saying underrated, but I just don't think,
Yeah,
honestly, I can say that he was underrated, because I think that he was perfectly rated.
he was probably
If I had to
underappreciated
choose
when he
one,
was
I would say
at
slightly overrated.
Hibs. Yeah, he was probably underappreciated at Hibs at the time when he first arrived, but then once everyone knew what he's
By
got
Gary
and his
O'Connor.
capabilities and stuff, well, definitely by Gary O'Connor, definitely by Riordan, I know, when Riordan got subbed. But yeah, slightly overrated, but yeah, he's one of those icons of the club. So
Yeah, he was my favourite player for a long time growing up. So
yeah,
it feels dirty to be saying overrated, but it's genuinely because I don't think I could say underrated for him. And I'm going to move on because I'm digging myself a hole and I don't want to be in a hole. Next up is Thierry Gattuso. And I feel like Thierry Gattuso is the opposite end of the spectrum. I don't think you can overrate him, because I don't think he was brilliant.
he was
Definitely
rated.
wasn't he? He definitely wasn't shite. He was just kind of Thierry Gattuso, wasn't
Just
he?
you'd
Scored against Celtic.
file him under one of those bang average, poorly positioned defenders that we had during that period of 5 to 10 years, where no one lit it up and probably caused more mistakes than created chances. So yeah, probably maybe go slap bang in the middle on that one, because
Yeah,
he
I
never
think so.
really.
Maybe so. If
Great
Ivan
name.
Sproul is
He's got
up
a
here
great name.
overrated, I think Thierry Gattuso maybe here underrated.
He's
Both are very close to the middle. But if you had to choose one, I think underrated. And he's scored against Celtic, and it was a good goal. It was a very good goal. It was
he's
his
got a
only
great
goal
first name
for
as well. So
exactly, and a great second name. Let's not lie.
yeah, that's
And he
true.
had dreadlocks as well, if I remember rightly.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's another tick for me. I like a player with dreadlocks. And finally, in the overrated, underrated for this week, Liam has said when Hibs used to run out to Song 2 by Blur. I'm going to say overrated because I much preferred Teenage Kicks by the Undertones.
I'm going to say underrated because I don't think it's associated with Hibs that often, and I think it's a tremendous song.
It is a good song. Don't think it's anywhere near Blur's best song, but
No, but in regards to songs that Hibs have came out to, I don't think you would file that under the bracket of Hibs used to run out to that. Do you know what I mean? Because you normally go to like Teenage Kicks and Alive and
yeah.
Kicking and something like that. So
Oh, Live and Kicking as well. Forgot about that one. See, when I was younger, right? When I was younger, I used to think that the manager chose the song.
I think you've
That
said this before. I don't know if it
the,
was to me in person or if on this, but I swear you've said this before.
that the players ran out to, and I think it's because I remember the players when we had Tony Mowbray ran out to Teenage Kicks, and then when he left, it changed to Alive and Kicking, and I think I just convinced myself that every time we change manager that we were going to get a new song for running out. So, I mean, if someone at Hibs can confirm / deny that that
Barry,
might be the case.
get in touch and let us know the
It
inner
might be the
workings
case. It
of
might not be the case. We
the
don't know.
history.
So we'll really quickly run through the Instagram questions, and we've got a very quick fantasy football update, and then I'm going to get my dinner. So Patrick Riley has been in touch, and he asks, what do you think is missing for Hibs? Because we seem to be defending better now, but seem to be scoring less.
For me, it's just trying to find that right balance between picking our times when we're attacking and defending properly. With the shape that we've got, Jago and Newell are working their absolute backsides off, and the second striker, whether that be Doige, whether that be Venti, whether that be Lafondre, doing a lot of doggy work as well. So, listen, it's just trying to find that balance. We've scored a lot of goals this season. It's just unfortunate in the last couple of games we've not scored any, and we've not really looked like scoring any. But again, look at the opposition we were up against, and I don't think with the amount of firepower we've got on the pitch, front four, front five at times, I don't think we'll struggle if our phases he play in the attacking sense work out.
Absolutely. David Jameson asks, defensively, the back four were superb, but do you think that we're asking too much of Dylan Vente to drop as deep as he is?
I seen this coming and I thought of it, and I think
It's a great question.
it is a great question. I think it's more to do with the fact that Boyle was the other one that was up there more than anything else. Listen, every time Vente's played up top, he's been on the last man, but he's also dropped in deep as well because he can do it. I think it was just more prominent at the weekend because Boyle, with the outlet of the pace, being on the last man, that was just the role that he was asked to do. I just hope it doesn't get to the stage where we're asking him to do that a lot more, because his shot conversion rate is a joke. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know he's not scored in a couple now, and had a few shots, so it's obviously brought it down. But overall, he's phenomenal in the box, and we should try and feed him in the box as much as we can.
Absolutely. This is the thing. He's a fox in the box, and give him a half yard, he's probably going to take it in the box. I mean, we've seen it 5 times so far this season. So hopefully he gets his shooting boots back out for tomorrow night, and we see another couple of goals from big Dylan Vente. Rudy Mulvey is asking, wasn't watching it, can you please give me your player ratings? And just to save time, Sean, just give me your top 3 players, that your top 3 performers.
Well, I think across the board, apart from Jair, who I'd give a 6, I think all of them would be like a 7 or an 8. Marshall made some great saves, so he'd definitely be an 8. Miller would be a 9 for me. Jago would probably be a 9 as well. Obita would maybe be pushing towards an 8. So yeah, all in all, very strong team performance.
And that actually answers our last question as well, from Archie, who asks opinion on Jair's performance, and you've just said a 6. So a 6 out of 10 for Jair's performance. Hopefully we see him tomorrow night. I would quite like to see him tomorrow night, and give him some more minutes, see what he can do, and hopefully it'd be nice if he scored, eh?
Yeah,
it'd be class if he scored. I just love a player with dreadlocks. Me, that's the thing. Okay, quickly before we wrap up, fantasy football. Okay, so Hibs Ramble League game week 10. There's been no change, Sean, at the top of the table. It remains McGinn and Tonic from Dan Taylor, who has amassed a total of 598 points after 10 game weeks. Sunny 11 remains in second, 592 points. What's the story? Ross McCrory is in third with 580 points. I Caramba Umba Chumba FC is in fourth with 575 points, and rounding out the top 5 for the first time this season is Fife Jets by Billy Sterling, who has got 563 points, 1 point ahead of 6th. So remember, if you finish in the top 5 of our league this season, we are giving away some Leith 7 prizes. We've got some more interesting Leith 7 news to bring you very, very soon. So keep your eyes peeled on the socials for that. But until then, we will love you and leave you. Sean, thank you very much for joining me for the last hour and a half, and I really hope you enjoy the game tomorrow.
Thank you very much, mate. Take care.
See you later. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Let's get ready to rumble.